Good day, everyone. Trust you're doing well today. Today, we're talking about Access Holdings' latest technical and fundamental analysis. Now, if you have been watching Access Holdings recently, you have probably noticed something strange. Few weeks ago, the stocks was falling hard. Investors were selling, fear was spreading, and many people started asking, is something wrong with Access Holdings? But then almost overnight, the story is starting to change a little bit. So the company released massive profit numbers. They announced a 5.5 billion shares reward for employees, and suddenly buyers started coming back into the market. So what's actually happening? What's going on? Now, is this just a temporary bounce before another fall? Or is this actually a good buying opportunity that many people are still missing? So let's break down everything. All right. So first, let's understand why the stock dropped in the first place. Interestingly, the problem wasn't because Access Holding suddenly became a bad business. All right. The main reason was uncertainty, and stocks eat uncertainty. So the company delayed releasing its audited financial statement. Now, if you're new to stock investing, an audited financial statement is simply the company's report card that has been checked and verified by independent accountants. It tells investors whether the stock's number can be trusted, right? So whenever a stock delays releasing this report, investors naturally become nervous. Now people begin asking questions like, are they hiding something? I mean, something fishy in the results? Did profit fall? Is there a problem inside the company? Even if nothing is actually wrong, uncertainty alone can scare investors. And that's exactly what happened. Within just 4 trading sessions, the stock lost around 14% of its value. That wasn't because the business suddenly became weak. It was because fear spread faster than facts. And when you combine that with the fact that, the market in general was actually correcting. Now, here's where the story becomes interesting for Access Holding. After all that fear, Access Holdings finally released its financial results, and instead of disappointing investors, they shocked the market. The company announced a profit after tax, also called PAT, of about 216.5 billion naira for the first quarter of 2026. Now, let's simplify what profit after tax actually means, right? Imagine you own a business. Now, after paying salary, after paying electricity bills, and after paying rent, after paying taxes as well, whatever money is left belongs to you. That remaining money is your profit. So when Access Holdings say it made 216.5 billion naira in profit after tax, it means after paying all these expenses, right? And taxes, it still had that huge amount left. That is a very strong number. Even more impressive, the company also reported around 743 billion naira profit for the entire 2025 financial year. That immediately changed the conversation. Instead of asking, is something wrong with Access Holding? Investors started asking, did we panic too early? But that wasn't the only good news. The company also rewarded 77 employees with about 200 million shares worth roughly 5.5 billion naira. Now, some people may hear that and wonder, why should investors care if employees get shares? Actually, it does matter a lot. Think about it this way. Imagine you hire someone to manage your shop, right? If they only receive salary, they may do a good job. But if they also own part of the business, suddenly every decision they make, right, affects their own money too. They will become more careful, they will work harder, they will think long term as well. This is exactly the idea behind employees' share ownership. The company is basically saying, we want our staff to think like owners. Now, many investors like saying this because it aligns the interest of the employees, right, with shareholders. Now, let's talk about what the market is doing currently. As of Friday, July 10th, right, the market closed around 24.95 naira. At first glance, that doesn't sound, very exciting. The price moved down by only about 0.20%. Very small, but here is what caught my attention. More than 40 million shares changed hands that day. And that is huge. That is quite huge, amount of trading activity. So here's the question. If millions of shares were being bought and sold, why didn't the price move much? This is where things really get interesting. Now imagine two groups playing tug of war. One group is trying to pull the rope left, the other group is trying to pull the rope right. Now if both sides are equally strong, the rope barely moves. That's exactly what appears to be happening here. Some investors are still selling because they don't fully trust the recent recovery. At the same time, new buyers are quietly stepping in because they believe the recent drop created an opportunity for them. Now, let's move to technical analysis proper. Don't worry, technical analysis sounds complicated, but it really isn't. So one of the most important tools trader watch is something called the 50-day moving average. That simply means the average closing price over the last 50 trading days. Think of it like the average score a student get after the last 50 tests. It kind of helps smooth out all the daily ups and downs in the market, right? So right now, Access Holdings is trading almost exactly around 50-day moving average, which is roughly 24.75 naira. Now let's ask the big question: is Access Holding a good investment today? Well, there are reasons to be optimistic. The company is still making huge profits. Its business remains strong. Its operations stretch across several African countries, meaning it's not depending on just one market. The employee share program also shows management is thinking long term, and technically, the stock appears to be stabilizing after its recent fall. But there are still risks, all right? Investors haven't completely forgotten the delay in releasing financial results. The thing we trust is once it's shaking, usually it takes time to rebuild. The Nigerian stock market can also be affected by interest rates, government policies, inflation, and the overall economy. So while the fundamentals look strong, investors should stay alert. So here is how I see the situation. All right. Right now, Access Holdings doesn't look like a company with a broken business. Okay. Instead, it looks like a company that suffers from a confidence problem, and confidence can return much faster than many people expect if the company continues delivering strong financial results and communicate clearly with investors. In other words, the recent drop may have been driven more by fear than by the actual health of the business. And then again, let's not forget that ASI corrected as well. That doesn't mean the stock will immediately shoot higher. All right. Market really move in straight line. There will still be days when prices go up and days when prices come down. But if earnings remain strong and investors continue gaining confidence, the long-term picture could become more attractive. So what's the biggest lesson from everything we've discussed today? Never look at a falling stock and immediately assume the business is failing, all right? Sometimes the price falls because of real business problems. Other times it falls because investors become emotional. Your job as an investor is to separate facts from fear. Access Holdings reminds us of that lesson perfectly. The market reacted first, the financial result came later, and now investors are trying to decide whether that earlier panic created an opportunity. So the next few weeks will be very, very important. Will the company continue delivering strong earnings? And can management fully rebuild investors' confidence after the reporting delay? Those are the questions the market is trying to answer, and those answers could determine where Access Holdings go next. So if you're already holding this stock, this is a period to watch closely rather than react emotionally. Lastly, if you want signal on when to buy or when to take profits from this stock, I have a Telegram community where I share frequent market insights to enable you beat the market. So if you're interested, indicate your interest by sending me a mail via the email in the description box of this video. If you gain value from this video, please like and subscribe so you do not miss my next video. All right. Have a nice day. Bye.